our lifestyles are as diverse as we are as people.
Mhm.
And we need to honor that because we are living in 2023 as of this recording. And, we have all this innovation. We have all these cool things for us to engage with. And we have to look at the results for us as far as our health is concerned. We have multiple epidemics of chronic diseases and mental health conditions that have never been seen before. They've skyrocketed in the last couple of decades. So we need to be aware of that. There's a mismatch happening. We have all this apparent
Mm.
innovation, but we're not doing well as far as our health is concerned. And so we don't want to shun all the cool stuff we have access to. That's all good. We could still, social media and, media and all the technology and all that stuff. That's fine. But we need our genes are expecting us to interact with real people in the real world. So how do we do that? And to transition into that is like the final point of how do we get here, which is processed food industry has made it seem like it's so complicated. You don't have to work anymore. Just get out of the kitchen, put
Right.
your kid a hot pocket in the microwave, dinner is served, right?
Yep.
This marketing to us that it is difficult to take care of ourselves and it's difficult to
Mhm.
feed our families. And they've
Yeah.
made it ridiculously simple on the surface, but the mid to long-term ramifications is massive problems with our health. And
Yeah.
so wherever we are in the spectrum, family, you just mentioned like sometimes we don't necessarily like the people that we might be living
No.
with. All right.
Yeah.
And that's just a state of reality for some people. I don't know. Have you ever seen the TV show Yellowstone? Beth Dutton has not finished a dinner with her family ever. All right. It just doesn't happen. She's going to
It's a
be a
great
problem.
example. It's a great
But
example.
with that said, you know your family better than anybody. At this point, they are aware that Beth is gonna run away from the table, pissed off, starting stuff, and then they're gonna sit around and enjoy dinner after that. So
And
it's
they
knowing
do, they calmly do, that's so
that's it.
true.
Or we can fight, against the personality of the person. Not to say that somebody's going to be that extreme, but what I've seen, and this is going to be very logical, is that part of the disconnection that's happening with parents and with children, and also again cross generations, is we don't address the monster while it's small because we're so out of touch with each other and missing out on the vital data that whether it's your significant other, whether it's your kids, they're giving you feedback and data on how they're doing and what they're struggling with, what might be causing them internal turmoil. But if we're not checking in, because a lot of our communication, we know that the majority, this is top tier psychology, the majority of our communication is nonverbal. All right.
Right.
So if you're not actually paying attention to your loved one, if you're not taking the time to actually see them and to be present, you're going to be missing out on a lot of that very vital data. So you could see like, where are they really at? How are they really feeling? And I can see those little subtle things, but also just the act of when we're eating, you could see this kind of stress offload. My kids, we created a culture where they're talking about their days, where they're talking about this crazy stuff happening with these kids, the little Kardashian things going on just in like elementary school. My youngest son will joke about it. It's like, it's not really that serious, but it's just like, what are these kids creating drama for, with each other?
Mhm.
But I would miss that if I didn't create an environment where he feels free to share those things. And
Mm.
so, okay, so we've got the kind of conventional family construct, but what if you're not living with family or you don't have kids right now?
Mhm. Yeah.
Again, we don't want to villainize having some time. Like you can kick back, watch your favorite show and have a meal or on your lunch, whatever. That's cool. But what I would implore everybody to do is to schedule time each week. I'm a big fan. It was three in the data. Three was at minimum effective
Oh, yeah,
dose,
3,
but
that's right, good point. You
two,
only have to do
even
this
two.
3 times a week.
But also, just depends on where you are right now. If you're going 0 to 3, that might be a big jump. Just even twice a
Yeah.
week scheduling. If it's a lunch with a friend,
Mhm.
if it's just going and having coffee, it is so important for your soul, for your psychology, and
Mm.
for your health. Truly, we do so many things that are less important. Schedule that time. If your family isn't close by, whether it's a date night with your significant other, whether it's a coffee with your friend, schedule it. Make it real. Even the act of scheduling puts
Yeah.
in place, like we schedule all this other stuff that is
Yep.
not nearly as important as your relationships and your health. Literally, we started this off talking about how our relationships are the most powerful controller of how long we're going to live. And
Yep.
by the way, in that study that I mentioned of the 148 studies, the meta-analysis that was from Brigham Young University, they also noted like relationships were more impactful than overcoming obesity, than
Oh,
exercise.
yeah.
They specifically noted
Yeah.
those things like, yeah, those things are cool, but it is our relationship. So invest in that. And also, we need to make a shift in our culture. And we have to take it upon ourselves to do this right now.
Yep.
I went to the number 2 high school in Missouri. All right, it was ranked number 2. Such a good school. I didn't learn a thing about building healthy relationships, even
No.
though it is the most important determining factor on my health, on my success, on my happiness, on my habits. It is a tip of the spear kind of controller of everything else downstream.
Yeah.
That's why it
Yeah.
matters so much. But we're just not taught. You can accidentally have good relationships or accidentally have shitty ones. That's pretty much
Right.
the state that we're in. We're just kind of thrown into this thing instead of like, no, that's what makes platforms like this so important is we could bring on the very best people in the world in their respective fields when it comes to relationships and learn from them. But we have to share this knowledge. We have to share it with our kids. We have to advocate for this start to get shared in kind of conventional education settings as well, because the quality of our relationships truly, I can't even stress this enough how important this is. But last little piece here, sometimes if we feel like we're lacking that, we can tell ourselves a story that it's not possible for us. It's not
Yeah.
accessible for us. And I'm telling you from the perspective of someone that was isolated, I lived in Ferguson, Missouri at the time. I was the first person in my family to go to college, let alone graduate from college. And if you don't have a model, like it's just all manner of messed up things happening that are just obstacles in me figuring this thing out. I have a mattress on the floor at this 1 bedroom apartment, and my health is terrible. As you know, I was diagnosed with an advanced arthritic condition of my spine and my bones when I was just 20, which that's years in the making to have the manifestation of that condition, degenerative disc disease at just 20. All right. It's absurd. I'm in massive pain. I am deeply, deeply feeling alone and a mismatch in like feeling like I'm trying to do something good with my life, but it just doesn't seem to work out. And so I know what it feels like to feel isolated. But when I made a decision to get well, number one, which a lot of times we don't do, we just kind of like, well, I don't know, we'll see. I'll give this a try. I made a decision to get well, and little did I know that it would be through relationships that I was going to get there. I had a couple of, just kind of like distant friends, whatever. One of them, I had known her for like 3 years. And when I made the decision to get well, within 2 weeks, she took me to a health food store. We hadn't even been anywhere together before. It's just like, I was just riding in the car with her and we pull up here. I didn't know that it existed. And so now I realize, because some of us can be also, extreme introverts, right? Or like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's what we wanna speak to, is that person who loves being by themselves.
I refuel that way. I would
Yeah,
rather be hanging out with a good book and
yeah.
or going on a walk
Me
by
too.
myself.
I like a good
Truly,
book.
all
Yeah,
right? I get it. And I know how vital it is, because even the most introverted among us, we need each other. Our
yeah,
genes expect us to connect. We would not survive. Throughout our evolution, we would not be here without other people helping us
right.
to those inputs from, again, just even that touch and exposure. We need these things. And last little cherry on top, when I was in that situation and again deciding to get well, deciding to make it a mandate for myself to, and this is the tough part, sometimes we have to close a chapter on relationships that are not serving us, that could be hurting our health, really address those things, and sometimes to make room for something better. But we have to choose it and we have to qualify ourselves. A lot of these things have to do with us getting better ourselves so that we feel
First, yeah.
truly like we deserve what we deserve, because at the end of the day, we absolutely do, but sometimes we might not realize it.